For TraderInsight.com, I'm Adrian Manns. Let's talk about the first hour trading pit trades for Thursday, June 7th, 2018. First one on the fastball XRV list, ATRA, Atera Biotherapeutics Incorporated. This one you can see I had a 4601 go line on it for the short sale, a 4702 stop set up initially, and a 4485 target. Stock came down, triggered us in, and within the first half hour or so of trading, right down to our profit objective. So that one is a no-brainer. If you had any questions or concerns on this one at all, it should have really been whether or not the stop was liberal enough, loose enough. Should the stop have been up above the pivot? But in the end, I thought that didn't really make sense. If we got up above this range, then the most likely course it was going to take was up to and through the pivot, and then at that point, I would have considered that a potential reversal, not a continuation setup. Next up, Avaya Holdings Corporation, ticker symbol AVYA. This one, initially, I had a stop up at $21.90, up above that central pivot. The go line on this, $21.34. It's been really having a hard time getting down below $21.27. That seems to be sort of the value zone right now for it. In the interim, what I've done is I've taken this big volume spike here and this little attempted bounce and used it to go ahead and trail my stop down a little bit lower, $21.52. I know that's tight, but just given what the stock's been doing this morning and the lack of movement below our entry line, I want to give it a chance to go, but if it doesn't go, I'm not going to have a 60-cent or a 56-cent stop on this. I'm just going to go ahead and have a nice tight stop at $21.52. CyberArk Software, ticker symbol CYBR. We had a 64.43 validation line on this one. 63.68 was the initial stop down under the pivot and all this garbage from yesterday's trading. It did open and trade within the allowable slippage. Got us in first thing in the morning. 64.43 bounced, and we got all the way up to the 64.97 target in the first bar of trading. Fidelity National Information Services, ticker symbol FIS, was our first no-show of the day. 107.06 would have been the entry trigger on this one. 106.52 was the level that I used as a stop. You can see that that might be a little bit too conservative on the stop. I was just really looking at if it got down below this level, I was expecting a move back down into here. And, I probably also could have focused on these tops over here and maybe loosened that stop up a little bit more to account for all of this stuff. In any case, this is where I had it. It never triggered this morning. Big volume on this closing tick yesterday. That's right where it opened today. Big volume again, and then a sell-off down into the range. So no trade on FIS. Polaroid Incorporated, ticker symbol COOL. 3101 triggered us in right off the opening bell. We had a $1 profit objective on this one. Remember, it's either $1 from the prior session's high or low or the pivot line, whichever comes first. In this case, we had a blue pivot or the R1 pivot right up above there at 32.31, but that was a little further than I trusted this thing was going to go. Took us out at 32.02, so you had a $1 profit on the first entry, came back down, got down below the entry price, tagged in for a second entry 50% of the profit target, and then closed out at break even. Once that first entry was over and done, on the second entry, the other thing that you could do was move that stop loss so that it wasn't so wide. Those lows from the morning that overlap with these lows back here from yesterday a little bit, right? 30.62 would have been a good stop on the second entry if it would have done something other than what it did, which was 50% of the target and then out at break even. So one profit, one break even on cool. SeaWorld Entertainment Incorporated, ticker symbol SEAS, got us in on a 2037 tick right after the open. I had a 1976 stop on this based on yesterday's trading, and it got us down below the central pivot for the day, so I was pretty confident in that stop. Once we had the first entry in place, SEAS made it 50% of the distance to that first objective at the pivot line and then reversed back down, took us out for break even. When it dipped below, we had a chance to get it again. I know a few of you in the room grabbed it the second time as well. And I did move the profit objective to the high of that first bar because I didn't really know why it reversed there. I just saw how hard that reversal was on the open, so moved the profit objective down about 10 cents. Made for a tighter trade, about 30 cents per share instead of 40 cents, but after the first trade was done, the other thing that I was looking at was keeping a stop that was a little bit tighter as well, not giving it as much room to wiggle on the way down. So down below the lows of this morning at $20.17. So really the second go around was a 20-cent risk for a 30-cent potential reward. Made sense, and in general, these tighter pivots are not my favorite way to trade these things. Of course, we like to see the pivots spread a little bit and have a wider profit objective, but I trade them the way I see them. So that is SEAS. TD Ameritrade, ticker symbol AMTD, 6276 was the entry line. That happened in the first bar of trading. It got down below our entry and then triggered us in on the way back up again. Stock had a 6208 stop loss initially. Once we failed to make it up to 50% of the distance to the target and saw that this bounce down here was in place, I went ahead and moved my stop up to $62.46, and in fact got taken out on its way down to the pivot. I would still be in this trade if I would have left the original stop in place. Just got a little bit later into the morning, and I was looking to clean some of these positions up. We'll see if AMTD winds up making it up to the target today. If it does, then a little trip to the woodshed for me for tinkering with a stop too early. But otherwise, the markets are really starting to slow down, and I really didn't like all this overhead resistance on AMTD right out of the opening gate. Finally, Ultragenyx Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, ticker symbol RARE. Initially, this was set up for a 77.60 entry with a 76.32 stop. Once the stock opened, we had a pretty different picture. So this was, I called this in the room as a trade that was discretionary because we were going to have to go in above the stated entry price. So the worst case scenario here should have got us in on a bounce down to our allowable slippage. So the allowable slip on this one, the high yesterday was actually about 77.62, and then today's allowable slip would have been to 77.82. That would have got us in on the bounce. I didn't have that order live, so I wound up slipping all the way up to $78.15, actually a little bit higher than where that line's drawn. And then Ultragenyx was off to the races, went straight up to that 79.11 pivot, came back down, missed the second entry on it, but you could have done it twice. So that was a real nice trade in RARE. As usual, Rick did a really nice job of calling my Baltimore chop opening gap trades in the room. The one that I liked the best this morning was UNFI. He also had SJM, which was a great trade because it was fast, but this one was textbook. So that opening bar traded down on a 2 standard deviation gap of true range. Then the second bar had a high at $41.69. That became your entry zone. First places I would look for in terms of putting a stop in would be down below the low of this bar at $40.79, or optimally right down below this volume build that happened as the stock tried to trade higher. So we saw this push coming together as UNFI tried to trade higher. That then looked like a floor as far as I was concerned. And when we were triggered into it, the move up through $41.69 had a logical profit objective right at the first tick of the day, right at the open, $42.71. So again, thanks to Rick for bringing that to everybody's attention, including mine. We had so much to watch today. It was just impossible to be on top of all this stuff. But with everybody working together, it made it very easy to stick to the plan. So as long as we're just watching the things that we have pre-planned, it is very, very simple to execute many trades and have a diversified portfolio of intraday trades over the course of the first hour. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to call a trade of the day. This is Wayfair Incorporated, ticker symbol W. This was a sinker setup from the Around the Horn trading plan. These don't happen often, but when they do, you know that if you look back over the history of the Around the Horn plan back to 2006, sinker is one of the most reliable patterns that I have ever put together. So the way this works is, yesterday we had this big fastball expansion of range and volume up to a new 52-week high. It violated some of the rules that go along with the fastball setup, And that's why I see this as a stock that's more likely to reverse than continue. And the way that we plan this trade is it's going to be a short sale, and our go line on this one for the short is going to be 105.22, right under yesterday's closing tick. And the only way that we are willing to take that as an entry is if price has gone up and qualified by trying to break out above that level. So usually I use about 10 cents or so as a breakout criteria on a $100 stock, and this sure did that. So it opened, it traded above, traded down below. 104.69 was our 50% to the target level. At that point, we move our stop to break even. This son of a gun came up, stopped us out at break even, tried to make the push up above again, came back down, gave me another entry. This go around, it stopped me out again for break even, and then we had another push up above. And you know how I feel about the sinker setup. So when it came up and tried to make this push higher and failed, we had an entry that finally came down through the 50% level, made it down to the first profit objective at 104.17, kept right on going. We were trailing the stop up above the 50% level, got down to 103.66, and the rest of it I called in the room live. 102.07 was the next target. Then we established a 100.27 target, and then 100.98 was the trailing stop that ultimately closed this one out. You really had to be on Wayfair to make the most of the opportunity, but if you went to boot camp or if you went through the Income Trading Academy, then you know why this pattern is as reliable as it is. And sometimes you just have to let things flush out first thing in the morning and take those opportunities when they get in front of you. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email, adrian@traderinsight.com. I hope you had a great trading day today and an even better one on deck for tomorrow. It's the best trader education anywhere, only from traderinsight.com.